All right, welcome to the Future of Product webinar about value streams and effective value creation. We're going to talk about 3 different examples on effective value creation. I'm Henri Hämäläinen and I have with me Marc Dillon.
Hello.
And welcome everyone to this one. And we're going to discuss today about, we start with why don't people understand the value creation? What are the basically things that you could improve on the value creation side? And then we'll go from there to this to our examples on kind of a customer-based cases. We're not going to talk directly about customers as such, but like about the cases, what we've done on 3 different kind of examples. Maybe shortly, my background is on advisory and coaching different type of organizations. I've been lately working a lot with like R&D leadership overall on how to build up organizations that would be effective and successful in the future. And I've also talked quite a lot about value streams overall. So Marc, maybe it's time for you to delve a bit on yourself.
Thanks, Henka. Marc Dillon. I am the business owner for transformations in Eficode. I have a lifetime of working in product creation and technology organizations. And I have worked on the types of cases within Eficode that we're talking about here today, doing value stream mapping, exposing how value is created in organizations and how everybody's contribution leads towards that value creation, as well as platformization and developer platforms. So it's great to be here.
Yep, thanks a lot. Waiting a lot for this. And I think we introduced ourselves already, so here's just the pictures if you don't see. But let's go forward a bit to the problem statement overall. So we've seen that almost 30% of the efficiency is lost because people don't understand the value streams. Any thoughts, Marc, or experiences on this?
Well, I think that it's kind of astonishing that unless you're touching production or talking directly to a customer, many people in the organization don't really know all of the steps that the customers are going through, or even if you're a developer, all the steps that your code goes through in order to actually get to production. So, you know, we talk sometimes about you build it, you run it. So sometimes there are teams that are more aligned, but a lot of times it's like people just really don't know all the steps that the customer has to go through in order to receive the value or how they contribute to that value.
Yeah. Exactly. I think I've seen the same in so many places. So maybe we can keep this as something that we both believe highly on. And maybe it's good to still go a bit more detailed on what we mean by efficiency and effectivity. So the thing is that with value streams, you quite often go to the value stream mapping, and that is basically based on the lean side of the things, and that really tries to figure out the wastes in the process or in the value stream. And I think that is important overall. You need to find out the handovers. You need to find out the states where there's kind of a time for some work to wait, whether there is actually some kind of a big bunch of work waiting for someone else to be processed, or if there's unnecessary step. So I think that's one part of the efficiency. But then there is the other part, which is the lost opportunities, this kind of a value potential. And I think that's one of the things we're going to talk today, right, a lot.
This is where effectiveness comes from. It's like there's efficiency, which is just grinding the last penny out of your organization. But effectivity is doing the right things and doing them well and doing those efficiently. The worst thing that you can do is optimize something that you shouldn't be doing at all. And one of these kind of one size fits all, if you get like process improvements out of a book, or, from some different types of process improvement, if you're not focusing on exactly where those bottlenecks are, where work piles up, where it's all dependent on one person, and maybe what if that person didn't work there anymore? But, understanding really clearly what are the specific bottlenecks in your organization and how to relieve those, so that then you can get the flow maximized. And once you have flow working in your organization, then it comes to making sure that you're absolutely doing the right things as the input to that flow, and then profit kind of comes out the other side.
Yeah, and I think this is extremely important topic, that like don't fall into the trap of only think about wastes. Wastes are definitely important, and you need to find out the wastes, but then also think about what are the opportunities you could get, where you get more value out of your value stream. So yeah, I guess we've kind of gone around a bit this topic, so that we can actually kind of start going towards the 3 examples. And hey, be active. If you have any questions coming, feel free to type some of those in, and we will take those when the time is suitable.
Okay, so value stream mapping, one of my favorites. So there's an interesting example that one of my colleagues who used to work on one of these, a nuclear submarine, and when a young person comes out of sub school in their early 20s, and they join a device, a crew running a device such as this, they are not allowed to progress and become a useful member of the community until they have certified on essentially every system in the ship, to where they can understand questions like, okay, sailor, tell me how a molecule of air turns on that light bulb. And it's like, well, okay, we must have been on the surface. We had the snorkel up, not the periscope. The molecule of air went into the periscope, into one of the tanks, through the filters, through the turbocharger, through the intake valve, into the cylinder, pushing the cylinder down, turning the crankshaft, going through a gearbox, a generator, a turbine, and then a switch panel, and then turning on that light, sir. So if a young person joining a nuclear submarine can understand in 3 to 6 months how every system on that boat works, why can we not in IT understand how every bit of value is created in our organization, all of the steps our customers have to go through in order to realize that value, and how every step that we do as an employee generates more value for that customer? So that's the kind of example that I get to here. It is possible. It's highly possible. Every onboarding process should include understanding how the value is created in your organization, and everybody in the company, put these things up on the wall, and I'll tell you how they look like next. So let's have a look at the next slide.
Yeah, and the answer to your question why is exactly that. I don't think there is the effort. I think that's the reason, right?
Yeah, actually, yes.
They don't. It's not seen something that should be part of every onboarding process, even though it should be. And I think that's what we're trying to convince today, everyone, that hey, this is something that should be there in every onboarding process.
So if we think in really, really simple terms about a value stream, you can think, the usual thing. There's an idea on the left side, and there's operations on the right side. Value stream, a very, very simple kind of look is, we have the idea, we create the things, we do some engineering, we do some testing, we release it, it starts being operated and supported by an organization. So very, very simple. This is like the smallest kind of value stream map that you could have on the upper left here. If you have a click, please. So within the operational value stream, what is every step along the way? And are there wait states? Is there inventory piling up? Do a bunch of orders come in before somebody processes them and moves them to the next step? Do a bunch of shipments get piled up before they go to the next step? If you're thinking in the physical world, if you're thinking in the software world, are you taking a bunch of orders before you do deployments? Are you taking a bunch of orders before somebody sits and does the paperwork for the licensing or the licensees? Make sure we understand every single one of the steps. And then the development value stream is feeding that operational value stream with new features, new products, and new things. So one more click, please. So then if we first optimize for flow, if we don't have things flowing through the organization, it's like if the car isn't moving, we can't steer it. If there's not flow going through every value stream in the organization, then we can't start to optimize it. And we can measure every one of the steps along the way. It's called flow metrics, and understand not only is there a wait state, do some steps take longer than others, and the longest step is the one we should optimize first. It doesn't matter if many quick things are optimized before you get to something slow, back to a manufacturing kind of standpoint. And then also, are there things that are piling up? Is there inventory piling up for approval or testing or deployment or licensing or delivery of any kind? So we could have the next slide, please. So once again, visualize every one of the steps, gather people together, put them onto whiteboards, take a whole wall of a company and put some of the plastic whiteboard material up there and go through it. I've done this many times. And we're looking for, once again, handovers, wait times, bottlenecks of people, bottlenecks of process, bottlenecks of tools. And just the act of doing this, of bringing the people together in the organization and doing this kind of mapping, already people will go away and unnecessary steps will silently disappear. Some things will silently get optimized. People will reprioritize something that they didn't realize was such a bottleneck without even having to create the actions. So there have been metrics created on percents of improvement that just doing the mapping takes. And essentially any size organization can undertake this. If you have a team of 10 or a team of hundreds or even thousands of people across an organization, it's still possible to scale and look at every step along the way in your value creation. And then if we go to the next one, so we'll click through here. So here we have a customer. And the first step will produce whatever the step is for that customer. It will have a cycle time and an uptime. If the person is calling for service and the service desk is closed at night, that's an uptime problem, or at least something that can't be optimized if you're having lots of problems in the night and the service isn't open. If you go ahead and click. So for every step along the way, there will be an understanding of what is the cycle and what is the uptime for that step. And we can walk all the way through. And then the customer eventually will get feedback at the end of the process. And this is just a template. We'll show an actual instance next. So go ahead and click through, Henka. So this is what we're describing with the value flow. And the customer will provide information, will receive information back, and then every step will have a process time and a wait time. And this is the template that we will start a value stream map with. And then if we continue, so the first step might be opening a website, and it might take the customer some period of time in order to click on an ad, decide that they want to click on it. The website opens. A 1 minute open a website is a pretty long time, right? They might search around on the website for some period of time. They might then choose a product. And while they're choosing the product, they might take a lot of time and do some comparison, look around at others. They might leave your site and come back. They might even leave your site and come back later and leave some of these steps kind of unfulfilled. And then when they make the payment, they've decided to buy something, and smoothing that payment cycle could be where the problem lies. So if we look at this, we have a pretty difficult open time for the website. It's kind of plausible to understand that people might search for a while, but it still seems like an awful long time. They choose a product, and you want to make this easy for them, and the payment time. So if I just look at this and I think, okay, there's 4 really long steps, but my goodness, if I'm getting people to the payment cycle and it takes them 10 minutes to fulfill a payment, maybe I'm going to optimize that first because that gives the most value back for the thing. So if you click on through a little bit, right? So then we look at, when are we adding value? Every time we get the customer from one step to another, that's the value add time. Every time the customer waits in between for something, That's the processing time. So then we can take these two and we can look at them and we can create a metric that we can basically compare across the organization. But most importantly, when we look at any one of these value streams, we can understand, okay, if we're looking at the conversion from every step to another and a step takes too long, or if we're looking at the conversion for every step and maybe even it's a short step, we're losing people for one reason or another. So if we have another look. So that was an operational kind of value stream. So we want to look at what are all of the silos. Some people say that DevOps is removing the friction caused by the silos. It's basically every step along the way we can consider as a different silo. We can create metrics for all of these steps in real time, and that's called value stream management compared to value stream mapping. Value stream mapping is quick and easy. It's something that can be done in a few days worth of time or organization days worth of time. If we click on down, so making sure that we understand, are there the right governance processes? Sometimes we have a very long process to vet requirements in a value stream, like in order to understand, do we really want the thing? And then we have another long string to approve the thing. Or if a customer takes a long time in order to decide that they want to buy something, we should be able to convert that into a payment very, very quickly. So looking at these kinds of value streams and understanding every step of the way quite clearly, how they are, if we go to the next slide actually already, and look at product development, but how every step along the way is contributed to by the tools and the infrastructure that's in place, as well as the development value streams. So in this case, we have another look at a stream where we're getting customers and we're giving them quotes and we're giving them service orders. But then what happens is we're actually building services that are adding features to this along the way. So if we do the first part and we understand every step along the way for the customer and what the customer journey is, then we start to look at how we define and build and test and release software that enables that journey to have more value for the customer. Then we're actually starting to really add value for the organization in terms of our action planning and our agility and our ability to take the things that we're doing and turn them into direct value. And then a couple of other things. So if we have a look at the metrics, so how much work is in the system at every step? How long does the entire step take in order to realize? How much work is actually contributing to the whole end-to-end flow? Is the flow distributed? Are there bottlenecks? Are there places that perhaps if you added resources, if you added computing power, if you added some kinds of human interaction even in order to reduce the amount of flow in a specific step so that the flow can continue in a linear fashion along. So, and if we have one more look. So the way that we approach this with our customers is we pull people together from across organizations and across silos. We look at and talk to customers in order to understand how they are receiving value and what the bottlenecks and the hurdles are that they need in order to overcome in order to receive the value. We map this from end to end and make it very, very clear to everyone involved where the opportunities are for improvement. Then we can pilot, typically from the development value stream, how it delivers into operations, how it receives information from the operational stream, and then how it tackles adding features into that through the development value stream. And then what we try to do is we always want to have a continuous improvement. This is not about a big bang change. It's about a big bang of information that then over time we're able to use to continuously improve and fine tune and make sure that we're always working on exactly the right things and not optimizing something that we shouldn't be doing at all. So once again, just bringing people together and doing value stream mapping of the organization, of the operational side, how customers create value, and of the development side, how developers create value. Just doing that in and of itself creates a tremendous understanding in the organization. And everybody then should understand the steps of how their customers are receiving value, and most importantly, how you as a human in that organization are creating value for the customer and therefore value for the whole organization. Cool.
Thanks. That was extensive. Just one question that came to my mind, like how would you start? Like, would you select the most important value streams, or like, because there are many in organizations, so what would be your guidance of like how do you know what to select, or do you map like all the value streams first and then like what would you do?
Typically, when a customer is across the table, or maybe on the same side of the table as us, there are some pain points. Or they're trying to look, do they have the capabilities to execute the company strategy? And oftentimes the company strategy is kind of a North Star that says, okay, the company wants to go here. And then they start to try to understand, do they have the capabilities to do that? So oftentimes which area to optimize is of a strategic importance to the customer. But then it comes down to, sometimes it's the new platform that didn't really deliver what they were expecting it to. Sometimes it's the lead product that has started not delivering the kind of value, or it's something that worked well in proof of concept or MVP, which now is not delivering the kind of value that it expected. It's different from customer to customer. But as long as we're picking something that is of strategic importance, then we're able to add some value there.
Yeah, and this is about the continuous improvement, small improvements, like finding, exactly. All right. Thanks, and hey, feel free to ask more questions also from the audience. Okay, then I'll take the second one. It's about like interaction-based value map. It's kind of about the same stuff than what Marc was saying. But the whole point is that when you think about the value streams overall, you can take another view from the customer to the whole organization for the interaction points. So in this example, or in this example picture of interaction architecture, you can see that there are like for a customer interaction, you can meet the sales representatives, you can use the mobile or web. And in web, you can of course have like web pages, also even some kind of real solutions there. Then there's the actual product. Then there could be customer support. There could be like a physical store. There could be, there are many different. It's just an example. It's not all the interaction things. But the whole point, what I want to make here is that like when you think these interaction layers, those actually link into the business IT and also to the products and cloud services and all of these of the company. And then you have like different kind of ways to fix kind of implement some new features. What Marc, you were saying, like doing this continuous improvement on these different things. So it's good to try to also map the company from this interaction point of view. Now the value flows will go through many of these interaction points, but it's also good to understand that at least everyone in the company would know. I've worked with companies that don't know that, hey, we have this type of customer support, or hey, we have even this mobile app or something like that. So it's important to make sure that everyone understands first the interaction architecture overall. And so this, our kind of approach here is that this helps to also then visualize the customer experience. What are the interaction points? What happens in which type of an interaction there? And trying to kind of map like this the customers, for example, buying cycle. It can be whatever cycle that is needed in any case. So it really tries to express that how what are the things that affect the customer when working with you as a brand and with your product. And so this is about the whole product thinking, that it's not only about the core product they are using, but everything else around it with all of these different interactions. So I think that's the message we wanna hear say. And here's one other example of this. So let's use this kind of a some software or system that you would need to make an expense allowance claim. So then you from there you actually need to use the mobile side, for example, to take the picture or whatever it is to sign in, and then you have the product separately, and this product can even be a mobile product or it can be a web-based product. It doesn't really matter, but then those link to some of the systems that we have in the company. So I think this is a very simple example on purpose, just to get an understanding that different features for customer are not only about the product, but it can be about so many other things related to the product and the kind of a servers and back office what you have for inside the company. So the message I wanna give is basically this, that too often all the development activities are siloed inside of some of these layers. Either we work on the physical interaction layer or digital interaction layer, or then the products or something specific on the cloud side, or so the kind of the customer interaction is forgotten. And this goes all the way to like slicing the work in epics, in agile and stuff like that, that you always look it from these layers perspective rather than this interaction, customer interaction. So I think that is essential thing, that to understand the interaction and make sure that all the development is actually done via this like interaction based map. So few takeaways from me here is that like overall, maybe the same as Marc you started with, it's most important thing is that everyone understands these the same way as they should understand how the value is created. Then how do we interact with the customers? What are the interaction points overall? And then this definitely will enable the collaboration. Like when we are developing something, do we make sure that, hey, this gets done in all of the possible interaction points, so that it's not only our product got this feature, but now we need to make sure it's also the customer service, and it's also the support side, it's also the web page. All of these needs to be developed at the same time. So I think that's the message we want to give here, that hey, don't make sure everyone understands in your company. It's not only about the product, it's about all the things related to the interaction with the customer.
And bringing people together to draw these kinds of things, I can't emphasize that enough.
Exactly.
So like when you start looking at okay, the even like the web versus mobile, right? They're different technologies. They're often different teams. Yeah, sometimes it's the same, but oftentimes it's different teams, and they're not looking at things the same way, and they're not necessarily even incentivized to look at the things the same way. And regardless of your internal company politics or incentives, when you bring the people together to look at the things together, things will start to have more synergies than without. But you only have to take the effort to bring the people together around the topics and draw them out.
Yeah. I want to give an example here, is that like Spotify is an excellent example. You can use a normal computer for it. You can use your mobile with it. You actually have it on your car as a separate. You even have it on your watch.
Television.
You have all of these different kind of boxes that you need to be able to play a lot with those. You can use it as like in public spaces for something. So there are like tens and tens of different kind of interaction points for these. And then if you take even into account that, hey, someone can add their like a voice recognition, that you can ask for a song. So it just increases the amount of interactions there are. And I think this is going to be reality for all of the products. You need to have more and more ways to interact with the product. So that's the reason it's so important.
And I'll just bring this up because this is such an interesting topic. So if you look at Spotify model, it doesn't include that. So what Spotify does is they bring people together across the squads to do exactly these types of activities to make sure that there's a constant synergy across all of the different cross-functional teams that they have, which are working on similar things in a similar way, but in different, completely different parts of the company.
Exactly.
Cool.
Let's go forward for the third model, platform model.
Yeah, my favorite. So first thing is, this is a reference architecture for some developer tools. And we see in a lot of different organizations where lots of different tools end up being used by different companies. And if we go to the next one, what I'm more interested in is this. And you might say, okay, well, yes, every tool chain kind of looks like this, but does it? Every one of these actually represents a single open source tool. And the way it works is this. In an ideal value creation model, a developer goes to a portal and they click on something that they want to start working on. They get their repositories, they get their pipelines, they get a testing framework with tests that pass or fail. They get all of their compliance things, their security scanning, their Kubernetes, all of this stuff orchestrated, delivered to a container in production, and then a link back to that to the developer, right? In minutes. That's the target state. That's how modern software companies are able to achieve value. In minutes, a developer can get essentially everything they need to start writing code in a production style context. All their dependencies, all the frameworks, all of that kind of stuff from a catalog, right? So we talked about Spotify. Backstage is a good example of this, right? So there's a developer portal front end that can allow a developer to come and select whatever it is that they want to work on. From this type of viewpoint, you can actually have lots of different bells and whistles, all those security scans and things like that. Cross-team dependencies. If I work on this, if I work on this API, I need to include the test cases from these applications so I make sure that I don't break them, right? Making templated and orchestrated things for all of these. Templated and orchestrated. Okay. You may say we have automation. We have scripts for many things like this. But orchestration is an event-driven thing where every one of these is an event. And the first event starts with the developer making a click or a commit, actually committing some value. So this is the kind of modern way of orchestrating development and value creation. It means that there are configurations for all of these items, and the configurations are used in order to create this orchestration pipeline that just goes. So when we think about many modern organizations that started Agile, 5, 10, 15 years ago, they've ended up with a lot of developers using different tools in different types of ways. They've ended up with different systems created in different ways, lots of frameworks and things like this. So the modern way of doing things is we don't even want tools that use your old scripts. We want tools that use configurations that are in Git, GitOps, that are creating this orchestrated pipeline all the way through. So like one other way to visualize this is, going from something like on the left to something like on the right. And, finance, IT organizations, product organizations, software as a service, embedded software, all of those are applicable. And the neat thing here is as software is getting more and more complex, for the first time in just the last few years, we're starting to reduce the complexity and the cognitive load on the developer by presenting them a tool chain that's more like the one on the right than the one on the left. And as a developer, if you need to know how your Kubernetes is orchestrated, or if you need to know what flags are used in the test framework or the security scans or things like that, all that stuff can still be in Git and available to you. But if you just want to come into work, take your task, write some code, know that it's going to production quickly and safely, then it's more like the thing on the right. And it's interesting that this actually becomes not only a real tool chain. So we have tool chains that look just like that with a variety of tools. It's actually an interesting model we were talking about with Henka earlier. It's a model for any service that an internal IT organization has that it delivers. So HR is the example that we came up with. So as a human, I go to a portal and I select the service that I want. There's a workflow, and that workflow is configured and event-driven. It's not scripted and linear. It's configured and event-driven. You want to change the configuration, and it behaves different in the future. Then whatever the compliance factors are, if it's international vacations or holiday as a great example, if it's international payroll, maybe a little more challenging example unless you're in the payroll business and it's an opportunity. Then you do your deployments and you do your validation, and the human can receive that value back. I think that's really cool.
Exactly. And I think this is, and why this is important, why we're talking about this when talking about value flows overall, is that like, I see this to be the other side of value flow. Hey, there's the value that the customer gets, but then there's the value we need to provide for our internal people. And this goes back to like, if you treat your people best, they will treat your customers the best, right? So you would need to build up the value flows inside the company to be, it's about developer experience that has been talked a lot, but I think overall, as an employee experience on how do you feel that you are taken care of well so that you can take care of the customers well. So I think all of this goes back to this type of like a really thinking, going through your value, internal value flows and platformizing like these value flows and automatizing those. So I think that's, at least for me, this is the thing that every company should be focusing more and more.
Yeah. And one last word on cycle time. So you noticed that on this slide and on the previous ones. If you have nothing else, if you're able to measure the cycle time for any action, so from a developer getting a ticket to it being in production, that's the most important one on a development organization. On the in the operational field, from the customer appearing to want to buy your service to having completed the payment and getting the service, right? If you're able to look at cycle time and then you understand anything you change, is it affecting the cycle time or not? And if you're making a lot of changes that aren't affecting the cycle time, is that a good thing or not? If you're trying to optimize things and you're not affecting the cycle time, no. Do a value stream map, understand where the real bottlenecks are and optimize for those. If you are measuring cycle time and nothing else, and it's getting shorter or it's getting tighter, and that's the desired result, then okay, maybe that's the one exception for doing value stream mapping, but it's usually not the case. But this is often the first time to set something in the stone, which is like we start to measure the cycle time, and then we either optimize that or we're not optimizing that. Good.
So your takeaways for the
yes, please. So. We're working on simplifying the cognitive load for developers by creating them a integrated tool chain, tools that were designed to work together that quickly deliver the ability for a developer to create value in a safe, sane, secure, compliant way. Oftentimes when we do this, when we orchestrate this type of work, it can help an organization to consolidate ways of working. You can create something that's so compelling that developers will want to join that. And all these kinds of things, there are really nice integrated solutions, and there's also really nice open source options with integrations that we work on different sets of for different customers. And you can also think like this for your internal platform.
Okay. So overall, the three takeaways for this, what we've been talking about, I think we cannot highlight enough that the most important thing, the essential thing is you need to be able to understand the flow. And I mean, everyone in the company needs to understand the value creation. And I would even say so that, hey, once in a while, skip your like a strategy monthlies or strategy half a year or something and get together to a board and draw these out. I mean, that's gonna improve your value creation more than just talking about like some strategy. I really see that, hey, this is if you would do this once a year or once a half a year, we will guarantee like that it will improve the value creation. I don't know how to emphasize this enough.
Absolutely.
Then the second thing, optimizing the bottlenecks, and now optimizing based on value. I think Marc was also trying to state it just now. So first, try to find what are the bottlenecks. Like is there a long lead time for something, or cycle time for something, and then if that is important for your value creation, then kind of start optimizing it. If it's not, then maybe do something else. But like it's about understanding the value, understanding the bottlenecks, and then starting improving the bottlenecks or the value creation. And then like what we discussed already, like start improving also the internal ways of like serving your people to be able then that they are more able to then serve their customers better. So like modernize the internal platforms. Maybe it's a bit technically said, but that's what it is. Like really, if you think all the internal services are platforms, then kind of think about like how do you modernize those to be something that they would expect from an external vendor overall. So I think that's the way to go.
Yep.
Any last words?
I'll just say all these, I'll reemphasize, all this is continuous improvement. All of these are things that do not have to be huge change initiatives. They don't have to be huge budgetary considerations. They're things that can be done, incrementally and continuously add value. And I really like this. I've actually seen it where you have your strategy session maybe in the fall, or close to winter for the next year, but then in the other half of the year you look at your value streams and you look at how you're actually creating the value, and then that gives the steering for the second half of the year. So really good. Okay, thanks a lot. From our behalf, we're happy to take in questions if there are any, and like I said, this is recorded and it will be available for all of you later on, and you can of course ask more questions later. So thanks a lot, Marc. It was a pleasure, and let's get back to the Future of Product webinar in 2 weeks. Thank you. Thank you.